366 days ago today, we saw the final match of Jyushin Thunder Liger, a 35-year career ending on one final night on January 5th, 2020. At the time, we did not realize how different the world would be post Jyushin Thunder Liger, the in-ring competitor, as the world was shut down. The world was stopped in an instant, thanks to the spread of a deadly virus. The world was different. The world had changed. It was halted in its tracks. I'm not sitting here spreading a crazy conspiracy that if Jyushin Thunder Liger does not retire, that would be no coronavirus and the world would be safe and be a better place. As wild of a claim that might be, I sadly think nothing was going to change that fact. But it is wild how nuts the world had changed just mere months after we saw the end of a legend in 35 years, a man that had been a part of so much history, so much tradition, and had been a part of our lives for 35 years, and suddenly he's taken a step in a different direction. He's still a part of our lives, thank God. Thank God we get to see him on a somewhat daily basis, color commentary and whatnot. Just crazy how what we thought was the norm and now the unnorm. We have a completely different world. And what better way to celebrate Jyushin Thunder Liger's career a year after he has hung up the boots after 35 years than going through some of his top matches, as we're bringing it back. We're bringing back the Top 12 series. It's been a hot-ass minute since we've done a Top 12, and I think there's not a better case to bring it back than with this man right here. With 35 years of incredible matches under his belt, it was tough to rein in a Top 12, but I did my best. There's going to be a lot of, I'll say honorable mentions that I'll be talking about before I tell the world what is my favorite Jyushin Thunder Liger matchup. As we are going to go right into the game with 12, Minoru Suzuki and New Japan's King of Pro Wrestling in 2019. That is my 12th favorite Jyushin Thunder Liger matchup, as I won't be showing footage of this match and the next match that's coming up just because they're the most recent, and I don't want New Japan to flag this video because they've been on a fucking tear in a warpath to take down the content, as this match is Shakespearean art, is what this is. Two men that have been a part of the wrestling world for a long time now, and they even cross paths, not in a wrestling ring, they cross paths in a mixed martial arts bout. And what we saw, the return of Kishin Liger. In the build-up to this, we saw a lot of great things. But I think the greatest thing was at the end. The bow down. There was a lot of teary eyes in Ryogoku that night. A special night as far as just the symbolism of these two men battling it out for one final time. Going into this match, I was so looking forward to seeing it, and I was just like, this is going to be fucking crazy. Like, this is just going to be such an awesome final kind of big match of 2019 for Jyushin Thunder Liger to go into. Basically, have this match and then go on to, in November, December, kind of relax and cool off before he gets to his final matches in the Tokyo Dome. This match is just so emotionally draining and just such an emotional feel to it that I had to put it on this list. It's quite iconic when you think about, as far as the entertainment aspect of it, as far as what I mean entertainment, the storytelling of it. The storytelling of Minoru Suzuki at the end is just unbelievable. It's just these poetic images that you see of him and Liger. It was really like two titans battling it out for one final time. For Jyushin Thunder Liger, the man's had 35 years of history. He's had some great in-ring matches that are better in-ring quality than this match. But I think this match is more important than most of those matches that are going to be even talked about in the honorable mention section, where you're just like, well, those matches were better in the ring than this match. This match just made you feel. And that, at the end of the day, it is Japanese pro wrestling, just any, pro wrestling in general. That is what wrestling business, you're supposed to bring out emotions in people, whether it's cheering, whether it's booing, or even in this moment, sobbing, seeing a poetic final send-off by Minoru Suzuki bowing down to the man, the god himself, Jyushin Thunder Liger. Just was awesome. It was awesome in so many ways. I loved it. Loved every second of it. It was great. I wish New Japan could do shit like this more often, but it's hard when you have a once in a generational talent like that and who has all this history built up and it's finally his last hurrah and you get this match. It's just fantastic. Fantastic fucking match. As my 11th matchup on my list, it is versus Hiromu Takahashi at New Japan's Best Super Juniors 24. This is day 2. This is Jyushin Thunder Liger's final match in Korakuen Hall for the Best of Super Juniors. Unbelievable. Unbelievable bout this is. As far as, again, taking me back to a child and just the raw emotion of it. Going in knowing, alright, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion is not about to lose to 50-some-year-old Jyushin Thunder Liger. It's not going to happen. There's no way. There's just no way. But the people wanted it. And the people wanted it, and I wanted it so bad. And just rooting for the man himself, just be like, come on. Just let it be. Pro wrestling is so engulfed in the, you put the new kid over, you put the young guys over. When on your final match, you're supposed to put somebody over, It's supposed to be looking up at the lights, 1, 2, 3. Kind of a circle of life, the wrestling business. You start out losing in the opener, and you're going to end losing. And that's just the way it is. It's the way it's, supposed to go. But even then, fans get caught up in just the moment of just wanting their hero to win their, the last big matchup, and especially here in Korakuen Hall for the Best Super Juniors in a block tournament matchup against Hiromu Takahashi. At the time, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Well, I mean, what a huge moment. But the match itself, again, very much like the Minoru Suzuki matchup at King of Pro Wrestling 2019. There's just so much emotion that goes into this matchup. There's just so much feeling in wanting a man to beat the other man so bad, and that's what pro wrestling is at the end of the day as a fan. You're wanting someone to beat the other guy. And, there's matches that are going to be on this honorable mentions list, and even maybe ones that didn't even make the honorable mention list. They're just, matches in general, they're just like, well, that was a better in-ring match than those last 2 matches on my list. But again, it's about the raw emotion. It's Shakespearean theater in a way, where people are crying because a man lost a predetermined bout, and it's because you care about the character so much. You care about the man himself. He's an awesome fucking dude. So it's not like he's a piece of shit too. So it's great on both ends. That's not a given these days. But this match, I think, as far just for me as a fan, it's got a warm spot in my heart. Love it to death, and it's also great to just see Hiromu, like the young. This is basically almost freshly, I would say, freshly off his excursion. This is his first Best Super Juniors. Taking on Jyushin Thunder Liger in Korakuen Hall in a big-time match. It was just awesome. It's just an awesome fucking match in general for both guys involved, but a lot more probably for Hiromu. And just just imagine wrestling Jyushin Thunder Liger. That must have been fucking crazy. As the next matchup, my 10th match on my list, it is from New Japan's New Dimension 2010, as it is Naomichi Marufuji, and this was the co-main event. Sorry for the shitty footage right out of the game, I was going to say it, because I scoured the world to find a good quality of this matchup. I could not do it. It's on New Japan World. It's not like a good quality on Daily Motion or something like that. No, this is at 360p, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2010 recording. As this matchup, I remember this very vividly because the main event was Shinsuke Nakamura Hiroki Goto for the IWGP Heavyweight title matchup. This is in Korakuen Hall. Again, obviously a famous venue, so you knew when these two were going to battle out. I mean, Naomichi Marufuji in this role right now in New Japan 2010, he's basically the no invader who's coming in to try to start some shit in the junior heavyweight division. I mean, he has had his history with Jyushin Thunder Liger. We'll talk about that rather quickly, as it's just a couple of matches down on my list here before we get to talk about these two again in the same ring. But for this matchup, I love this junior heavyweight matchup. This matchup is fantastic. This really is kind of the start of what the junior division was in the 2010 era, the 2010s rather, if you will, because they worked about 20 minutes, I want to say about 15-20 minutes, and it was go all the way. But with a guy like Liger in there, obviously he's got the psychology, he knows how to slow it down a bit. Obviously now, 11 years later, in 2021, the style of the junior heavyweights are a lot more fast-paced, a lot more just, go. But here, there's some psychology there. There's guys who are trying to get a hold. Like, they're not just doing crazy shit just to kill themselves, But it is an actual match. It's very enjoyable. If the shitty quality kind of turns you off in the matchup, I understand. But, less than 11 years ago, this match was one of the best junior heavyweight matches in the world at that time. It's fantastic. The 9th matchup on my list, it is Jyushin Liger versus Koji Kanamoto at New Japan's Fighting Spirit 1997, Day 16. Now, I will say this, there are 2 matches on my list from this Fighting Spirit tour, so that just kind of shows you how dominant the mid-90s were for just New Japan in general for the junior heavyweights. Some great all-time matches that happened in the mid-90s. As Koji Kanamoto, of course, Tiger Mask 3 is just a kind of destined rival with Jyushin Liger. I always loved Koji Kanamoto, as Koji Kanamoto himself is quite the stiff bastard. He throws those kicks in, and he's laying it in. But just his kind of kicking and his style very much embodies the strong style of that Inoki embodied. But this is quite the fucking match. Koji Kanamoto had a 1997 that was unbelievable with his match here and his match with El Samurai. And the Best Super Junior is just fucking crazy. Crazy run. That run specifically for Koji Kanamoto in 1997 really cemented that he's one of the best juniors of all time. But for this matchup with Jyushin Liger, it's just kind of crazy as far as Liger's schedule in this matchup. As a week before this, we will talk about a match that's on this list later on. So he has 2 of, in my opinion, the best Jyushin Liger matches of his career, just a mere 7 days between each other. I mean, it's just kind of nuts as far as the scheduling perspective goes, and the work rate of Jyushin Liger to go from an all-out matchup and then just, a week later do another one. Just crazy. And it shows the talent, also, of New Japan at that time. Insane stuff. A really good match. A match that needs to be seen, I think, by a lot of people as far as those mid-90s Super Juniors go. There's a lot of great stuff that's really innovative, and it's not like the junior stuff you see today as far as there's striking involved, and there's holds are done. It's like it's an actual fucking match. It's great stuff. As my 8th match on my list, it is a pro wrestling Noah matchup, and it's a junior heavyweight tag team matchup, as it is from Noah Accomplish our 3rd navigation. This was the GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Tournament Finals, as it is Jyushin Liger and Takahiro Murahama taking on Kenta and Naomichi Marufuji. So we have Marufuji again against Jyushin Liger, but these are babies here, Kenta and Naomichi Marufuji. This is 2003, so basically Murahama and Jyushin Liger were the Osaka Pro Tag Team Champions at the time in 2003. Now, Murahama was working with Jyushin Liger. Like, they would bring them, Murahama into New Japan, and they work a couple of tag team matches and whatnot. Even Murahama wrestled a couple of junior heavyweight time matches. They always lose, but just kind of crazy as far as his career in pro wrestling goes. He was a mixed martial artist. He's a man that has done boxing bouts, has done shoot boxing bouts, kickboxing bouts. He has done a lot of different stuff as far as the combat sport world. As far as pro wrestling, he had maybe, especially at this time, probably 200 matches under his belt, if that, at this time. Really, really young in his career. Obviously, Kenta and Naomichi Marufuji in 2003, they're maybe 4 or 5 years in to their careers. Liger is the elder statesman, and for this, this is the crowning of the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions in a, vacant tournament. Crowning, and just 3 days before this, Liger and Murahama beat Takahashi Sugiura, Yoshinobu Kanemaru to advance into the finals. This was just a tremendous junior heavyweight title matchup, and just a junior heavyweight tag team matchup, because at the time, the mid-2000s juniors division in Pro Wrestling Noah was unreal. Just unreal, and bringing in guys like Liger, specifically in like the mid-2000s. He had a match with Yoshinobu Kanemaru, which we'll talk about in the honorable mentions. That was a really great junior heavyweight matchup for Pro Wrestling Noah in general. Dude, just great stuff from this matchup. It's kind of wild how great everybody is, and then you kind of have Murahama, who's just, for 5'4" and like 150 pounds of him, he looks like a kid in there. It's just kind of wild. But this is a fun match, though. If you love that crazy fucking junior tag that has Kenta, Marufuji, Taiji Shimori, and Kota Ibushi, you'll definitely love like this match. This is kind of the same cloth of that. As the next matchup on my list, it is from the Super J Cup second stage in 1995. This is Jyushin Liger versus Ultimo Dragon in the semifinals. This was done by Wrestle Romance, was the host of this Super J Cup as in 1995. Wild time as far as, again, showing how great the junior heavyweights are at this time. You have El Samurai, you got Geto, you got Gran Naniwa, you got Jyushin Liger, you got Chris Jericho, a young Masasaki Machizuki, Shinjiro Otani, Shuichi Funaki, Ultimo Dragon, and Wild Pegasus. I mean, you're talking about some of the absolute best of the sport later on in many years. And just right then and there, some of the best junior heavyweights of all time. Unbelievable matches. Unbelievable match here from this as far as Jyushin Liger and Ultimo Dragon in the semifinals. This is the longest match of the tournament. It went about 17 minutes. Jyushin Liger would go on to beat Geto in the finals from this. But if you're going to have a Super J Cup, and it was going to be a winner, definitely this match. Definitely not only this match, but definitely Jyushin Liger getting the win in the main event. It just makes sense. I mean, he was at the time probably the biggest name in the junior heavyweight division. He's a man that had a lot of history. Man has been a part of New Japan as far as Japanese pro wrestlers in general. A major player. This match, it was just destined to go great. It was just unbelievable. As weirdly enough, they have done the first one in 1994, which again was in Sumo Hall, and it was kind of basically produced by Ultimo Dragon. Here, you kind of have basically, it's like, well, that went so well last time, let's do it again. The idea, the Super J Cup in general, was conceived by Jyushin Liger, because it's just like, we have so many great junior heavyweights in the world, why don't we just have it, something to showcase that on a big stage, like a Sumo Hall in Tokyo Dome, because there's people at the time that were just like, there's no way Super Juniors could main event and be like, a major part of the show that would draw a lot of people. And this drew 11,500 in Sumo Hall. Just kind of, solidified that they could do it. I really wish that they could have done like a Tokyo Dome thing. That would have just been fantastic to really hammer in the point. I think there was a bit like kind of nervousness and naive about it though, and it's just kind of like, well, who would fucking fund it? Would have been, if New Japan was going to fund it, they probably would put their own guy over in the Tokyo Dome. It just would have been a lot of politics. Where here, at least with Wrestle Association or Wrestle and Romance, as it was called, that at least there was a respect with like Liger, where it's just like, he's not a big ego guy. So it's like, alright, I could lose here. But here in this instance, in 1995, it's like, alright, I didn't win the first one, but I'll win this second one here. So that was just kind of, and I think rightfully so, though. I think if you were going to have a Super J Cup for those years, 1994, 1995, 1996, Jyushin Liger was going to have to win one of them. It just had to. He's the biggest junior heavyweight star in the tournament and in the world. He's got to win it. He just had to. And it was a great match. Great fucking match. As the next matchup, my sixth match on my list, it is Jyushin Liger versus Naoki Sano from New Japan's New Spring Gold Series in 1990. So this is the oldest matchup on my list. As, Naoki Sano and Jyushin Liger are just kind of destined rivals. Really was Liger's, first real rival as far as the New Japan Pro Wrestling is concerned. Just, Naoki Sano, bit of a shooter in his day. He worked fucking Pride and Pancrase. But, as far as him and Jyushin Liger, he added that intensity and that kind of heelish heat to the matches, where Liger can do his high flying, do a lot of his awesome moves, and the awe-inspiring submission holds, and the moves of that had a lot of impact. So you have to have someone like Jyushin Liger, when you have that awesome kind of babyface power, you gotta have someone be an asshole. It happened with Kunaki Kobayashi Tiger Mask 2, it happened with Satoya Sayama's Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid. You gotta have someone that's gonna get the heat, and Naoki Sano was a great heat seeker. Did his part to perfection. I think this match is a great example of those early 90s junior matches where they are not really these crazy high-flying battles. There's a lot of psychology involved. There's a lot of hold working. There's a lot of submissions at play. Again, there's just two guys actually trying to beat each other up instead of guys just trying to put on a fucking athletic display of athleticism. It's just kind of, is what it is as far as an actual fight. It's an actual in-ring contest. But yeah, this is a great little match. If you want to do your research, watch this match for sure. It's a fun one. As we get to the top 5 now, it is El Samurai from the Explosion Tour in 1992. So this matchup is not on New Japan World if you're trying to look for it. If you see it on New Japan World, that is the rematch in May. That was in Osaka Castle Hall, which that's a great fucking rematch as well. But this match right here, you don't get that rematch without this match, because this match is part of the top of, it was before it was called the Best Super Juniors, the top of the Super Juniors, where Jyushin Thunder Liger was just brutally beaten up by El Samurai in this whole matchup. It's fantastic. El Samurai, again, talking about the Inoki Santo matchup, you need someone to be that heat seeker. El Samurai did a great fucking job here. He brought the heat, he brought the passion, ripping the mask, beating the fuck out of Jyushin Thunder Liger, just leaving him a torn mess with his mask all fucked up. It was great. A lot of passion and a lot of energy from this matchup. In 1992, I think if you had to take a year and be like, alright, as far as the best year Jyushin Thunder Liger ever had, 1992 it should be in serious consideration. You have this match, which, happened, I want to say, in March. You had the match with Super Brawl 2 with Flying Brian Pillman, that's in February. You have his match with Hanara in January for the Junior Heavyweight title. You have the rematch for this match in May. The first probably 6 months of the year in 1992, he's having great matches in every month. Just a fantastic run in general from him. And this is kind of like, again, planting seeds. There's a lot of great juniors that are getting their feet wet in the junior division. It has that name value already as Jyushin Thunder Liger, and you're having these great matches with these young kids to get them ready for the next couple of years, for when there's more and more guys getting involved. Just a great little junior matchup that, again, has a lot of heat and a lot of fire. Reminds me a lot of the Kobayashi Tiger Mask 2 matches in a way. They're not, that match is probably like, as far as all-time heat goes, and the reason why it's so highly regarded. That, not so much the El Samurai matchup and Explosion Tour. It's probably about a couple dials down from that, but it still has that same type of template to it, if you will, where you have El Samurai being the heater and just beating the fuck out of Jyushin Thunder Liger for a good majority of the opening minutes of the bout. As the next match, my 4th match on the list, it is a match that is in high regard. It is almost a folk tale in a way for New Japan Pro Wrestling fans. The date was October 20th, 1996. It was Jyushin Thunder Liger versus the Great Muta. Jesus Christ. This matchup, we're talking about Shakespearean a lot in this video. This is Shakespearean, but with a unbenign, like, almost comic approach to it, where you have the Great Muta, this character that's just fucking awesome, right? He shoots mist out. About every match he has in New Japan, it's not a Kaishi Muta match. A Great Muta match is this just spectacle. There's blood, there's violence, there's fucking brawling all over the arena, there's weapons involved, there's crazy shit that happens when the Great Muta steps into a New Japan ring. Just crazy shit happens. And here we have this match. 2 men, if you want to talk about just a Mount Rushmore New Japan talent, and just 2 Japanese talents that are very, very influential on American fans. These 2 it's probably 1 and 2. It's 1A and 1B. Just Great Muta, what he did for WCW in the late and early 90s. Fantastic stuff. Jyushin Thunder Liger, again, for what he did in WCW with Flying Brian Pillman in the early 90s and mid-90s as well. Just fantastic stuff. And when these 2 collided, it just had to be fucking great. And of course, we all know what happens in the end when we have a new layer to the Jyushin Thunder Liger, as we have Kishin Liger. This fucking demon soul that was, what happens, when Great Muta tries to take off the mask. Jyushin Thunder Liger, it's just a painted up warrior who's almost a fucking demon from hell looking to murder him. Just crazy stuff. Absolute insane stuff. It's a spectacle. It's a spectacle. If you're a Japanese pro wrestling fan and you somehow not seen this matchup, you have to see it. You just have to. It's a rite of passage, in a way, if you're just like, I've seen that fucking match. Because you just got to. You got to see this matchup. You got to see the Muta match with Onita. You got to see the Muta match with Jinsei Shinzaki. You have to see those matches. They're just spectacles where you're just like, what the fuck is going on? There's blood everywhere. We got, the Hiroshi Hase match with Muta. You got the Muta scale. Just crazy shit. So this matchup is just, it's a must-see match. You gotta see it. Our third matchup on our list, it is Jyushin Thunder Liger versus Shinya Hashimoto from the New Japan Thanks Wrestling Day Brush of 1994 in Budokan. This is unbelievable. As far as this matchup goes, this kind of laid the foundation of, alright, you're going to have a heavyweight guy, you're going to have a junior guy, it's going to be an open weight bout, it's going to be kind of for the fans. But we saw the debut of another layer of the Jyushin Thunder Liger character, and it's Battle Liger, this heavyweight Liger with the fucking barrel chest of a heavyweight for this bout against Shinya Hashimoto. He was here to no fucks given. He was here to kick somebody's fucking ass, and I love it. I love this matchup to death. I wish this matchup we talked about more. I feel like when everyone kind of talks about the Jyushin Thunder Liger great matches, usually they stick in the junior heavyweight division, which is great. These had a lot of great junior matches in this day, but this matchup is very, very special because it shows a new layer to Jyushin Thunder Liger as far as heavyweight Liger, battle Liger, if you will. This man was, arguably one of the biggest stars for New Japan at this time, for sure, in 1994. The heavyweight division, it's slowly going to get outmatched by All Japans with the 4 pillars. So this matchup here really showed that the New Japan office be like, hey, listen, I can do junior stuff and I can do heavyweight stuff. Sadly, they didn't really give him the heavyweight ball till years later, to the 2000s, when he's leading CTU, but it was capable here, and especially this look. This look is so fucking awesome. Liger just jacked to the gills. He usually wrestles about 205, 200. Here, he's probably at least 215, 220. Like, he is jacked beyond belief. Unbelievable matchup. Shinya Hashimoto's the fucking man, too. You have one of the 3 Musketeers taking on Jyushin Thunder Liger. You knew it was going to be awesome. And he's taking on 2 here. He's taking on Great Muta the match before, and here he's got Shinya Hashimoto. Feel like if they did him and Chono in the late 90s, probably would have been fucking nuts, but they just seemed like they wanted to go that route. They had Onita to worry about with Onita and Chono, which that match was awesome in its own right, but that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about Jyushin Thunder Liger, and this match I think is a must-see as far as, when we talk about kind of the heavyweight and junior heavyweight champions when they battle each other at the anniversary shows. I always wish there's a hint of this, where the junior guy is just like, alright, I'm bringing a whole new look and a whole new fucking attitude to this match because I want to beat the heavyweight champion. Because sadly, feels like the heavyweight champion kind of has to win. He usually wins. I would love for one of these days that to change. Maybe they do with Kota Ibushi and Hiromu Takahashi, as I'm sure they'll end up doing that matchup, but even with with the COVIDs going on. Hopefully we can see that matchup. We didn't get to see the Hiromu Naito matchup, but maybe we'll get that match. As far as just this really could be a template for a lot of those junior versus heavyweight matches, but just a lot of junior guys, they're kind of set in their own way. They're not trying to do anything crazy like this and get in phenomenal fucking heavyweight shape and just be a hoss about it. As our second matchup on this list, it is Jyushin Thunder Liger versus Shinjiro Otani from Fighting Spirit 1997. So this is, I want to say, Koji Kanamoto matchup. That was day 16. I want to say this is day 19. About a week before, you have the Koji Kanamoto match, and you have this match with Shinjiro Otani. Shinjiro Otani, another one of my favorite junior heavyweights in the world. His match was against Eddie Guerrero at Starrcade 95. It was like the first time I was like, Shinjiro Otani is fucking awesome. As he's just been, these two, kind of crazy that you have a match here in 1997. If they had this matchup in 2017, 20 years later, I still would be as amped and up for it as I was for this match here in 1997. Just 2 ageless wonders. Shinjiro Otani's still going at 48. He's fucking awesome. This matchup, again, the same kind of style somewhat of Koji Kanamoto, where it's a bit, some strong style elements, but really, Shinjiro Otani, he's such a perfect junior when you think about it. He can do it all. He can fly, he can go on the mat, he can give you strikes, he can do it all. It's a fantastic talent, and same as Jyushin Thunder Liger. He can fly, he can fucking give you some stiff shots, he can fucking put on the hold, he can work his fucking ass off, and this was a display of that between these two men. I would have loved to see these men work more often, but it just seemed like once Shinjiro Otani left New Japan for 0-1, it was kind of like the last time they could ever face off, but Shinjiro Otani's the man, Jyushin Thunder Liger's the man. This matchup, again, if you want to just, educate yourself and figuring out, why was people talking about the 1990s Super Juniors so much. Because of matches like these, where that are just a blend of so much great shit happening in one match, where and you have these unbelievable all-time talents battling it out on a daily basis like this. I mean, a week before you have the Koji Kanamoto match, you have this match here, and it's just an absolute treat that junior heavyweight division was in New Japan Pro Wrestling in the mid-90s. Can't praise it enough. As before we get to our number one matchup, the honorable mentions list. Alright, so we're going to run through them as, there's really no, number to them that's not in really order, but there's going to be one final honorable mention I'm going to talk about a lot, but really a lot of these, I'm just going to talk about them more, in passing. Jyushin Thunder Liger versus Hayabusa, that's from the first round of Super J Cup in 1994. That was just an awesome fucking really dream match to see Liger and Hayabusa one-on-one. That was a treat. God bless Hayabusa, God bless Jyushin Thunder Liger, as the Jyushin Thunder Liger versus Satoya Sayama exhibition matchup. This is a New Japan Pro Wrestling WCW co-promotion as that was presenting Wrestling Dutaku in the Furuku Dome in May 1st, 1994. Obviously a different Satoya Sayama to what the OG Tiger Mask was, but still a dream match come to life. You gotta talk about that matchup, and a match that isn't really talked about more, I think, by Japanese pro wrestling fans. Jyushin Thunder Liger versus Geto, that was the Super J Cup 95 finals. I mean, it's not on the level of the Ultimate Dragon matchup, but it's still a very fun match, and a lot of people kind of now, there's a lot of just newer fans who just think of Geto as just the booker and the heel manager, but even before then, Amir almost 25, years ago, he was a exceptional talent, and then he teams up with Jado and just more on a regular basis where they've become one of the best tag teams of all time, and just probably one of the greatest junior tag teams of all time as well. It's the Liger versus Yoshinobu Kanemaru. This was for a GHC junior heavyweight title matchup. It's at No Departure 2004. This really gave Liger, just his matches in Noah really helped solidify Pro Wrestling Noah, and to have a lot of great matches. I wish they would have done a matchup on a bigger scale for the Wrestle Kingdom or for a Tokyo Dome event, but just to kind of keep it going with the New Japan Noah relationship at the time, we didn't really get that. But it is what it is. As Jyushin Thunder Liger versus Owen Hart, this is top of the Super Junior 2 from April 28th, 1991. This matchup is fantastic. I always thought this was one of Owen's best matches, and I think him and Liger had some great chemistry and some great matches throughout the years. I wish they could have wrestled again in 1994, 1995. That would have been fucking crazy. A kind of more seasoned Owen who could do more heelish tactics, and I think that the fire from Owen being a cocky bastard would have made the rematch bout years later on a way, way better matchup. It was just kind of a what if for me. As Jyushin Thunder Liger, but he's not Jyushin Thunder Liger in this match. He is on excursion. He is Kiichi Yamada taking on Rollerball Rocco, taking on the OG Black Tiger. As man, I love this matchup so much. I love Rollerball Rocco. Unbelievable talent. Sadly, no longer with us. As Mark Rocco could do it all. Way, way, way beyond his years technician. Incredible at, working a lot of great stiff shots. And, it wasn't really much of a high flyer, but even in his day, was a more, athletic. Was doing tombstone bio drives, for Christ's sakes. He was awesome. He was the man. This matchup, it's a bit hard to find now, but if you can get a hold of it, by all means, watch. It's awesome. And the Flying Brian Pillman matchup from Super Brawl 2, I had to have a Brian Pillman matchup against Jyushin Thunder Liger on my list because it just had to be talked about. Those two really revolutionized the junior heavyweights in the United States from the American perspective. You had, the matches with, Satoshi Sayama Dynamite Kid that happened in Madison Square Garden in the early 80s. But that, was almost, 10, 15 years ago, and wasn't really, on a mainstream, pay-per-view, like Super Brawl 2 was. And, the first ever Nitro was. There's a lot more eyes on the product, or not really on the product, but just on that match, though more than, the Satoshi Sayama Dynamite Kid matches, where, if you're a wrestling fan, you know, but if you're not a wrestling fan, you probably have no idea. But at least if you're, were a casual fan of the mid-90s, you probably understand and recognize that matchup. It was just great. Great stuff there. As my official honorable mention from this list, it is going to be Jyushin Thunder Liger vs. Pegasus Kid, the junior heavyweight title matchup. Now, this matchup has a very special place in my heart because this was the first ever New Japan pro wrestling matchup I ever saw in its entirety. From the Chris Benoit documentary, which this is 2005 when I'm watching this, so just to date it, to make sure I'm not a crazy person. And it's like, oh, you're watching a documentary about the guy who killed his wife, and it was before it happened. This was crazy enough. It is crazy to think about. WWE's, the fact that they had this footage. So they had 3 matches from Chris Benoit's New Japan run on the second disc. That was, you could see in their entirety. It was this match. It was his match against Eddie Guerrero as Black Tiger 2, the Super J Cup, the second round of the Super J Cup, and then the finals, him and Sasuke. And I watched this matchup first because it was just chronologically, it was on the list like that, because this happened in 1990. And I watched it, probably 10, 15 times. Luckily, as a young kid, they had the feature that had the match commentary done by Michael Cole and Taz. So as a 10-year-old kid, I'm like, I know those fucking people. Let's have them commentate the match for me so I can understand what's going on. After about the 10th, 15th time, I remember from the documentary, they show kind of a bit of the footage at the finish of the Great Sasuke Finals matchup. And the crowd was just going apeshit for that match. I was like, man, not really just the crowd is going apeshit, but the commentators are going apeshit too. And I just was like, man, I have to see this matchup just with the commentaries. Just with its original commentary, I gotta see, what it's about. And just immediately, probably 5-10 minutes in, I was like, this is a whole different feel of this matchup, and this is the product that it was supposed to be. This is the original conception of this product, and I really enjoyed it. I know it's kind of wild to say as like a 10-year-old kid, it's like you're really enthralled by it, but at this point I knew the story of the matchup. I knew everybody involved in this matchup, obviously knowing Jyushin Thunder Liger from WCW and whatnot. So it's not like I didn't know those names on the DVDs. It was just like, it was a perfect way to introduce myself into the Japanese pro wrestling as far as the content-wise. And, if it's not for that match and just for those DVDs in general, I'm not here today doing a YouTube, video or doing any type of YouTube channel talking about Japanese pro wrestling. Maybe I would have, should have, would have, could have been. But it was such a childlike wonder to be like, man, there's a whole nother world out there. It's like, I love those guys that came from Japan and worked here in the States. I love Taka Michinoku. I love fucking Great Sasuke. I love Jyushin Thunder Liger. I loved Ultimate Dragon. It was, loved so many of the talent that was a part of WCW and ECW at the time. And it was just like, man, they have their, of course they would have their own fucking promotions over there. Like, it made, as a kid, I guess it was just kind of naive. Just kind of like, oh, same thing with, like, not knowing that if there's a show that's not on pay-per-view on TV, it's like, well, yeah, of course they'll still have the show. But as a kid, I just didn't understand, like, well, how did you just have to be there to see it? Didn't understand that you could just record it and sell it, like, on a DVD or something. Just, stuff like that as a kid. I was just like, God, I was either really naive or just really dumb. But if it's not for those matches, but just, we're talking about Jyushin Thunder Liger, specifically the Jyushin Thunder Liger Pegasus Kid match, I'm not here today. With a YouTube channel talking about Japanese pro wrestling. That has a very, very soft spot in my heart. As for the number 1 matchup on my list, Jyushin Thunder Liger versus the Great Sasuke, Super J Cup 1994. Man, oh man, this match. Alright, so when it came down to what was going to be the number 1 matchup, it was obviously going to be some type of Great Sasuke matchup. Now, was it going to be the Summer Struggle Tour from 1994, or was it going to be this matchup from the J Cup? Now, this matchup is infamous, for one thing, and the one thing is the spot at the end, as we all know. If you haven't already seen the match, hey, pause this video, watch the match, come back, and you can hear my thoughts. It's the spot, obviously, Great Sasuke going for a springboard, botches, falls flat on his face. A lot of people could have panicked, a lot of people could have just done nothing, they could have just been like, oh shit, what do I do? They could have even pinned him. Liger does a perfectly timed time but, does the little, fucking taunt. Sasuke rolls him up 1, 2, 3. Fantastic, first of all. Fan-fucking-tastic that spot happens, because the improvisation of this, because it is pro wrestling and it is scripted, but there's sometimes with it's got to go off script. That was a moment, obviously, when shit gets fucked, you got to do something. And Liger, no hesitation, not a sweat, just does his little taunt. Sasuke rolls him up 1, 2, 3, shocking the crowd even more, because it's nuts. Because you could have done nothing. You could have been just stand there like, oh shit, and then just kind of maybe give a punch or a kick. Crowd was a pop. Crowd pops for the taunt. Like, oh my god, how perfect. Like, that was just awesome. Then Sasuke rolls him up, pins him, another pop. You get a whole new pop out of the match because of Liger's moment. And I think if you were having number one matchup that's Jyushin Thunder Liger's, all-time income, the 35-year career, what is number one? I think it's something like that shows that Jyushin Thunder Liger was a once-in-generational talent, to have the type of wherewithal, to have that type of knowledge, and just to go, alright, he fucks up, I'm just going to do this taunt real quick, alright, gets the crowd right back into it. But the crowd goes, oh fuck, he fucked up, what do we do? And then it's like, oh shit, he's making fun of him, it's great. It's like, it's almost made it to like it was a part of the match and part of the show. And that type of improvisation saves that match entirely, in my opinion. It really just doesn't really save it, because it was a great match before that botch. But it makes the botch meaningful. It's like, alright, oh, you thought that wasn't supposed to happen? Well, fucking, guess what, bitches? Oh, it was. Here's a taunt that really proved that I knew it was going to happen the whole time. Perfection. Done by a man, it was just a veteran at that point. It was basically 10 years into his career. And having it like someone like Great Sasuke, still pretty young, 3, 4 years into his career at that point, to be like, alright, don't worry, kid. Alright, we'll get out of this. Nice little taunt, roll-up win. It was just perfect. It was perfect in every way. And then you have the finals with Sasuke and Benoit as, Wild Pegasus, or as Pegasus Kid, rather. No, yeah, it was Wild Pegasus. It's like Pegasus Kid was the early 90s, the Mask Wild Pegasus. Alright, so Wild Pegasus and Great Sasuke. It was just the way it led into the finals, the way it was. Super J-Cup, 1994. Those J-Cups really are some of the best wrestling in the world, and it's happened in one night. Great Sasuke in 1994 had, 4.5, 5-star matches, 3 of them in one night. Just shows you the type of skill that Great Sasuke had, and just shows you also that Liger could save that type of unbelievable performance and make it even better. Thanks to just one simple little fucking taunt. That's all it took. And I think that proves to a lot of wrestlers, if you're watching that match, and just go like, well, not to panic. If something happens to where it's not going your way, the improvisation can go a long fucking way. Because at the end of the day, that's what pro wrestling is. It's theater. It's live theater with drama, with action, violence at times, and some comedy too. And just showing the comedy side of things, where like it's okay to you just have a laugh and make the crowd get right back into it with a laugh, back into the action, back into the moment, and make it even a bigger deal. We're like, oh shit, he taunted and he fucking caused the match. Whole thing. Another less is more too. Less is more. There's so many teaching points from this matchup. I think it's one of the most important matches to watch as a wrestler, because you can learn so much from this. As that will do it for my video, as this is the top 12 matches of Jyushin Thunder Liger. Let me know your top 12 or your top 10, whatever you want to do. This man is so influential. He's an icon in the Japanese pro wrestling scene. He's the greatest junior heavyweight who's ever lived, in my opinion. He's on my Mount Rushmore. He's one of the greatest of all time. God bless him. The Japanese pro wrestling world is incredibly well off thanks to this man. And it's just my little way of saying thank you to Jyushin Thunder Liger. As it's been a year, and it's been one crazy fucking year since he's had his last match, and we'll never forget him.